Vegas? Are we talking about Las Vegas now? Easy, Tiger. Some other time, maybe. Today we're going to look at the vagus nerve. What it's all about. What is the stimulation thing all about? The benefits that you can get by stimulation of this nerve, and also 5 easy ways that you can stimulate this nerve. So much to cover. Let's jump right into it. The vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve, or as they call it, the cranial nerve X. I wish I had a cool name like that. Anyways, there are a total of 12 cranial nerves in our bodies. These nerves serve as the main transmission lines from the grid station, our brain. These nerves link the brain with other parts of the body like the head, neck, and torso. Some of these nerves transmit only the sensory information, like the smell, touch, taste, and sight, while others transmit the motor functions that control the movements of the body. And some are the all-rounders. They perform both functions. Guess what category our vagus nerve falls under? It can transmit both functions. No wonder it is called the wandering nerve. So that makes it even more important, as the problems with the vagus nerve can mean problems in your sensory and motor functions. Function. There are things that you can control, like you can move your hand whenever you want, provided you are not suffering from any nervous disorders. But you don't consciously control your breathing, right? No, meditation doesn't count. And we all know how difficult it is to focus on our breathing for more than a few minutes, let alone control it. Similarly, the heart keeps beating on its own, and you don't consciously send enzymes towards your food for digestion, do you? Most of the stuff that's happening inside our brains is subconscious, even though the actions are being taken subconsciously, but the organs still need to be controlled by the brain, right? That's where our vagus nerve comes in. It plays a role in our autonomous nervous system that makes the subconscious magic happen. Wait, there's more. The vagus nerve also seems to form a link between the brain and the gut-brain axis. You must have heard people saying that our guts are our second brains. There is some truth in that. Ever had those gut feelings? Is your gut telling things to your brain? In fact, the condition of our gut can affect the overall health conditions of our bodies. Problems associated with vagus nerve malfunctioning. By now, you should have a pretty clear idea about the importance of the vagus nerve in our bodies. Something this important should continue to function without issues. Otherwise, the whole body would feel the impact. However, some triggers can disrupt the function of the vagus nerve. These include excessive stress, certain medications, inflammation, disease, and infections. Whatever the reason might be, the disruption in vagus nerve function can disturb important functions like sleeping, breathing, and even digestion. That's not all. Some of the other problems associated with vagus nerve malfunctioning include nausea, diarrhea, constipation, gastroparesis, reflux, anxiety and depression, weight gain, memory loss, fatigue, and whatnot. See, we were not exaggerating about the importance of the vagus nerve. Stimulation of vagus nerve. If the vagus nerve doesn't perform its function, it can become problematic for us. However, lucky for us, there are ways in which we can nudge our vagus nerve and wake it up from slumber. These are called the vagus nerve stimulation techniques. There are many benefits of stimulating the vagus nerve. Let's look at some of these important benefits. One important benefit of vagus nerve stimulation is that it can treat or reduce the symptoms of epilepsy. By minimizing unusual brain activity that leads to seizures, it can reduce the frequency and severity of seizures. Secondly, vagus nerve stimulation has a positive impact on overall mental health. It can even treat depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Another important benefit of vagus nerve stimulation is that it can boost a person's immunity. It can also reduce blood pressure and heart rate. It can even reduce inflammation. 5 ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. These are just some of the benefits that you can get by stimulating the vagus nerve. There are many different ways of achieving vagus nerve stimulation. There is a more formal method of stimulation that uses surgery to implant a stimulator that uses electrical signals to stimulate the vagus nerve. However, there are other ways as well of stimulating the vagus nerve that you can practice on your own. Let's look at 5 such ways of stimulation. Number 1. Stimulation exercises. By exercises, we don't mean the typical cardio and weight training, although research shows that these exercises can also stimulate the vagus nerve. There are a few simple exercises, or rather practices, that have a much greater impact on our vagus nerve. Stanley ROSENBERG, in her book, Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve, mentions some of these exercises that can reset the frontal or ventral vagus nerve. These exercises are so simple that even an obese person can perform them easily. Let's look at one of these exercises. The most simple exercise, also called the basic exercise in the book, has the following steps. 1. Lie on your back. I do that all the time. Number 2. Next, interweave fingers on both hands and place behind head. That's easy. 3. Then without turning the head, look to the right. 4. After that, well, that's right about it. Just remain there until you spontaneously yawn or swallow. Number 5. Now go back to the initial state with head and eyes straight. Now repeat on the other side. See how easy that is? Number 2. Cold exposure. Cold exposure? In winters? Just the thought of it makes my teeth rattle. Brrr. But no matter how painful that might be, cold exposure is very effective in stimulating the vagus nerve. Cold exposure also releases acetylcholine. This acetylcholine is the main neurotransmitter of our parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for calming us down and relaxing us, thus reducing stress. And what does stress lead to? That's right, stress interferes with the function of the vagus nerve. By cold exposure, we don't mean that you should dive head-on into a pond of water that's half frozen from above. That would be stupid, to say the least. Just splashing your face with cold water should be enough to get the beneficial effects of cold exposure. If you are more of a daredevil, then you could go for a cold shower also. Brrr. Okay, calm down. We only meant for a few minutes. You can manage that, can't you? Number 3. Deep and slow breathing. Breathing is always taken for granted. And why not? I mean, why bother caring about something that gets taken care of subconsciously? The answer to that is, we are just breathing enough to keep us alive, not to keep us healthy. Over time, we develop the bad practice of shallow breathing. Oxygen cannot reach the whole body when you take shallow breaths. Not only that, we remain in a constant state of stress when we don't breathe properly. And stress is a barrier that our vagus nerve needs to overcome. So breathing poorly can have an impact on our vagus nerve. But if you look at it from another angle, stimulation of the vagus nerve is as simple as fixing your breathing. And it's not that complicated either. Exhaling for a few seconds longer than the inhale can trigger the parasympathetic response, which can help improve vagus nerve response. Number 4. Probiotics. It's a creepy feeling when you think about the trillions of microorganisms crawling around inside you. But unlike your freeloader friends, they're not just a waste of space. These bacteria, especially the gut bacteria, ferment the undigested food inside our guts and also promote healthy immune cells. Not only that, research shows the gut bacteria can even improve brain health by stimulating the vagus nerve. So since these bacteria are on our side, by aiding them and promoting their growth through probiotics, we can stimulate the vagus nerve. Several key studies show the positive impact of probiotics on brain function. In one such study, the probiotic Bifidobacterium longum normalized anxiety-like behavior in mice by acting through the vagus nerve. Another study found that the probiotic Lactobacillus rhamnosus induced positive changes in the GABA receptors of the brain, reduced the stress hormone, and decreased anxiety and depression. And all these beneficial changes were facilitated by the vagus nerve. Number 5. Massage. Who doesn't like getting a nice relaxing massage? All the stress just fades away into the abyss. Research suggests that massages can also stimulate the vagus nerve and increase vagal activity. In particular, foot and hand massages and carotid sinus massages are more beneficial for vagal activity. The carotid sinus is just a fancy way of saying the right side of your throat. The carotid sinus technique involves applying digital pressure on the carotid sinus region to stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is an important cranial nerve that is responsible for handling many important transmission functions. The stress from our day-to-day lives, certain medications, and diseases can interfere with the normal functionality of our vagus nerve. When that happens, we need to stimulate our vagus nerve to get it up and running again. We have shared 5 easy ways to achieve just that. We hope that you benefited from this video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video with your friends and family so that they can also benefit from our tips on vagus nerve stimulation. Want to see more videos like this one? Please subscribe to our channel, Welcome to Wellness, and press that bell icon as well so you never miss another video. We'll see you in another healthy video. Until then, take care.